A covert narcissist is called the most dangerous type of a narcissist for right reasons, because the abuse of such a narcissist is very hard to recognize, since they always stay in a victim mode and you don't feel like they can be narcissistic, since their grandiosity, their entitlement is very hidden, and it's the opposite of what you would expect to see in a narcissist. Being with a covert narcissist is akin to being left in a room filled with odorless poisonous gas. You can only feel the suffocation, the impact. Being with such a narcissist is also like being stabbed by invisible knives. You only see yourself bleeding, but you do not know exactly what's happening to you. And because of their constant manipulation and gaslighting, you think you are causing all of this to yourself. These monsters put on different masks to elicit emotions from people and to extract supply. They know how to behave in order to recruit you as their enabler or as a bulldog, so that you can act and function for them while they get to enjoy that victimhood. One of their biggest tools is the modulation of their voice. Yes, they modulate their voice in different ways, and that too quite selectively, to get a certain kind of response from the person they are targeting. And that is what we are going to thoroughly talk about in today's episode. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. In this episode, we're going to learn how a covert narcissist uses their voice to control you. If that sounds interesting enough and you're eager to learn more with me, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, or if you're new to the channel. Your subscription always helps spread awareness about narcissistic abuse. There are four main types of voices used by narcissists. The first two are reserved for covert types. The last two can be used by both. The first voice is this excessively sweet, saccharine type, the one that is inviting, bubbly, open, that's kind, respectful. A narcissist puts on the mask of this excessively sweet voice when trying to manipulate a new source of supply. When a new person has entered into their territory and now it is a chance for the predator to hunt, they project an image of a person who they are not, and this person is open. There's a lot going on in their life. They're filled with joy. They're far away from all that malice and hatred. They're open, they're kind, they're helpful, they're altruistic, they're wise, they're bubbly. They are someone you cannot miss to be connected with. You have to have a relationship going on, and that creates this rush for the target, for the new supply, to just fall for that trap. And unfortunately, it is a form of love bombing as well. While using this mask of sweet voice, the narcissist also brags about their life and their children and their spouse and their house and everything that is going on, which is a kind of humble bragging, but it is not humble. Why? Because it is subtle. Actually, they want to get that admiration. They want everybody to give them that attention and admiration for being the martyr mom or the ultimate dad, the great partner who is so caring, who is so giving. This raises an important question though. What about high-functioning alcoholics or those people who are depressed but are high-functioning as well? Because this population also look lifeless in private. They don't smile, they don't talk, they are emotionally zombified, but they have to function. And in public, they don't look like they're struggling and suffering. What about those trauma survivors whose go-to response is change in voice? Let's say there is a trauma survivor who in public gets really excited about things. They're nervous, and that excitement comes out as bubbliness. They don't seem to struggle, or it doesn't look like a trauma response, but it is one. The answer to all these questions is not a simple one, but there is one big differentiator, and that is intentionality. With these people who are struggling with actual mental health issues, they do not intend to hurt others, or they do not change behavior on will with one purpose, and that is to influence the other person's perception only to benefit them, which is the narcissist. High functioning alcoholics, people who are depressed but are high functioning, or trauma survivors who change their voices. All of this happens unconsciously. This is an adaptation only to function, because they have to perform in order to keep going on. They do not know if their suffering will be seen or validated. But that is not the case with narcissists. Narcissists are quite intentional. When they talk a certain way, they know they're looking for attention. They know they are trying to manipulate their perception. They know they're trying to manipulate your emotions, or let's say make you feel guilty or a certain way so that you respond a way they already have calculated. You always have to consider the context. You have to look at the bigger picture. Just because you see this voice changing behavior in someone does not necessarily mean they're a narcissist. Maybe it's a part of their high functioning something. Maybe something else is going on. Maybe they have social anxiety. Maybe they don't know how else to function. So I am sharing this aspect of narcissism with you just to let you know that this is also a thing, which in itself does not mean every person who shifts their voice is a narcissist, because to some extent, normal people also do that to be pleasant, to be more open. That doesn't mean they are narcissistic. Voice number 2, and the most important one. This is the one where the narcissist becomes a martyr, is struggling and suffering. Let's say you call this narcissistic parent of yours, and the parent is a covert narcissist. You are their child. They are controlling you using 3 things: fear, a deep sense of obligation, and extreme guilt. And the narcissistic parent intends to make you feel obliged, guilty, and trigger that shame so that you do what they want you to do. You call them, and all of a sudden, they talk in a voice that makes it seem like they're struggling. They can die any moment. Anything will happen to them. They might have a heart attack, or they're just going through their last moments and they might pass away. And you need to jump in. When you hear that voice, without your awareness, you start feeling tense, because that shame, that lack of your presence or lack of proper obedience kicks in, and your abandonment trauma also then kicks in, making everything worse. Because a covert or an overt narcissist always abandons you physically, emotionally, psychologically. There is always some form of neglect. So it becomes a mess of trauma responses to deal with at once, and the narcissist knows exactly how to push those buttons, and they know what their control mechanisms are. They speak in such a voice they know would make you do what you wouldn't do otherwise. For example, they want you to give them money. They want you to do something that they know is difficult for you. You'll leave everything behind and do that thing. How do I know this? Unfortunately, this has been my whole life. My whole life, until I emotionally and psychologically separated from my covert narcissistic mother, was all about how do I make it better for her? How do I take care of her? How do I make it easy? I had no self, because my identity, it seems, was created for only one purpose, and that is to serve her ego. One small change in her voice, and here I am, running and jumping, trying to find a solution, asking, what's wrong? Please tell me, please tell me. And that became an obsession, an OCD-like behavior that I couldn't get rid of. This brings us to voice type 3, the raging, extreme, rageful voice. You can see it in covert as well as overt narcissists, and it's quite obvious when they're raging. It feels Satan himself is speaking through the narcissist, because it's quite heavy, dark, they're growling and they're snarling. They just are trying to put you down, bring you down, burn you, psychologically assassinate you, if I can put it that way. Just do everything to attack you. And that is quite scary, because this also shows and demonstrates their splitting behavior. With a covert narcissist, one moment they'll be in that saccharine, excessively sweet type of voice, In the next moment, there'll be this rageful, nasty, cruel, hateful narcissist trying to tear you apart. You want their approval because you cannot stand their disapproval. If they abandon you, that would mean a lot of silent treatment. They will look down upon you, they'll belittle you, they'll neglect you, and that triggers your core abandonment wound. Fourth type of voice is this dead, monotonous, emotionless voice, which is the actual real voice of the narcissist because they are emotional zombies. They don't feel anything, so you don't see that modulation. There are so many well-known narcissists online who talk about narcissistic abuse and so on. Observe their voice. Notice the shifts and the tonalities. You won't find a lot of content there. When a narcissist has devalued you and they have created this internal separation and they don't see you as one of their own, that is when you get to hear that monotonous voice. When they're filled with hatred and that hatred has brought their true self to the surface, that is when you get treated through this mask. It cannot be and must not be confused with other conditions such as autism or other trauma responses. Always consider the context, look at the bigger picture and other behaviors that go along with this one. You may also get to hear this monotonous dead voice when the narcissist is no more interested in you, and or when you're not the primary or the main source of supply, or when they are done with you because they have other sources lined up and they don't want to give you any approval anymore. They don't want to do anything. They don't care about love bombing you or anything at all because they don't just, if you go away, that would be fine. In conclusion, a narcissist wears many masks, and some masks are specifically reserved for the change of their voice. It is through the change of their voice they can control your emotions, as crazy as that sounds. They can put on the mask of being this excessively sweet person, or a martyr victim type who has been wronged by everyone, or this dead monotonous voice. All of these have to do with one thing, and that is the rottenness of this personality type. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. I hope you found it insightful. If you did, let me know in the comments and share it with others. I'll talk with you in the next one. Until then, let the healing begin and continue.